Are you gonna say hi?
That's it. Now you're recorded. Now you're recordifying.
Say hi, Coach.
That was not George Bush.
Say hi.
Hi. There you go. 7.3. One of the hardest sections in the book. You can totally, if you don't pay attention here, you're not going to get this from reading, right? Because Bensu did the reading and she didn't understand it. She was freaking out. Oh, also, do you have your lab books done?
Yes.
They need to be stacked up in a pile over here. See this pile that the other class did? Put them on top of there. If you haven't finished, hand it in by the end of the day. There won't be anything counted off. But after that, you will be counted off.
My handwriting
Big time.
is kind of bad.
Your handwriting is bad because you're left-handed. Great. I look forward to grading that
I
one.
really don't have bad handwriting.
Can you write something for me now? Go. No, I gotta see you write. Write your name.
I couldn't write left-handed if I liked to.
It's your name on your lab book. That's very important. Should be on the front of it.
Backwards. Hello.
Computers can do that? Chlorophyll? More like chlorophyll.
Okay. We're going to show you how photosynthesis works. It takes 2 days to explain. And there's a lot to it. And you're not going to understand it if you don't pay attention. And so people who pay attention and devote their full resources always get this grade. And people who don't pay any attention or are absent today, is there anyone absent? Everybody's here. People who miss this never don't get it and do very poorly on it. So this is I mean it's very difficult. This is how the engine works when you're explaining how a car goes. But after today you will know, after today and tomorrow, you'll know how a plant makes its own food. Right now you don't know. Okay?
I know.
Now, first we have to understand where we are. If we take a plant cell and, okay, let's just start with a leaf. Here's a leaf, right? And we cut out a square of the leaf, and there's what it looks like. And so you go in the cells. These are the mesophyll cells, if you remember. And we go up close into a mesophyll cell. We're looking at one chloroplast. You remember the little green dots are called chloroplasts? Now we make the chloroplast big. And here's the chloroplast. I have a magnet of one right here. And now we look at a stack of in the chloroplast we look at a stack of membranes called thylakoid membranes. And what we're looking at is the edge of one thylakoid membrane. That's what I have on the board here. The edge of one thylakoid membrane. Okay? What's the part outside the thylakoid membrane called? The stroma. What's the part inside the thylakoid membrane called? Thylakoid space. How good are y'all?
We're good.
Okay, so turn to this picture. It's in your book on 122. Ninja Throwing Star! Ninja Throwing
Whoa.
See? I'm going to put that over there. Now, I've got to go... I've got to go back lights on for explaining all this. And I've also got to go to a different program. This will take just a second.
Coach, this thing is what? Kind of like blurry.
Is it?
Oh, what?
Thank you.
It's not focusing?
It takes a while to focus.
Thank you.
Do you have it on night vision?
I'm not sure about that.
Hold on.
Maybe you know one of the bad cameramen.
Gosh. Hold on, I
That
messed up.
sounded really cool. Throwing it out there.
Or it starts like a game system or something.
I messed something up. Hold on.
Oh, got last one on. Oh.
Try this again.
No,
We have made a lot of thermodynamics in this house.
You okay?
This interactive exercise allows the user to explore how light influences
Whoa.
This thing is awesome.
It's like a 90s thing.
Okay.
Cool.
Take a look. Take a look at the screen here. This is what you're going to understand by the end of this.
Oh, great.
I
What
understand
all
now,
these
Coach.
molecules are doing. What's happening. Okay? Very complicated stuff. I'm going to leave that on and I'm going to refer to it now and then. Okay. Here is the edge of the thylakoid membrane. You can tell on the screen that it's a membrane, the little phospholipids. And there are some proteins embedded in the membrane. The proteins are orange here. And we have some other important molecules here. This is a water molecule right here. Why is that a water molecule? Well, it's an oxygen. That's an O right there. I don't know if you can make out that O. Some of the lettering has been wiped off here. That's an oxygen. Those are two hydrogens. Can you tell that says H+?
I can tell.
So if we get two hydrogens together with an oxygen, what do we have?
Water.
H2O. Now remember, they're held together by shared electrons. And I'm going to represent those electrons as little E's, little E minuses there. So that's a water molecule, H2O. Here's another one right there. Okay? Water is found floating all around a cell, in the thylakoid space, also in the stroma. There's water everywhere. Water, water everywhere, but not a drop to drink. The old man at sea? Huh?
Yeah.
Literature?
I know the book.
Okay. You have to do more than just science. Now, does anyone here remember the photosynthesis equation off the top?
Yes.
No.
6 CO2 plus 6 O H.
Solar
Oh,
energy.
yes.
Solar energy.
With solar energy.
Solar energy, guys.
602 plus 6.
You forgot that, didn't you, Coach?
No, I don't remember it. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to see how this equation works. You're going to see the water. Where's the water? Here! That's water, right? H2O? Yes?
Yeah.
Yep.
You're going to see the rest of them. We don't see any of them yet, but you'll see this first step is called the light reactions of photosynthesis. That's what I'm showing you today, the light reactions. And I'm going to show you how light will end up making oxygen. You know, you say, oh, plants make oxygen. Here's a plant right here. It's making oxygen right now. How does it do it? I'm going to show you. Okay? So hang with me. So it starts with the water. Today we're looking at the water, the H2O. And here is a couple water molecules. And I'm not going to show you, there should be 6 of them. You're only seeing 2 of them right now. The others will come. It would be too many magnets if I put all 6 of them. But I'll just show you 2 of them, and you can kind of say, oh, actually there's more. It's happening to more of these than what Mr. Willis is showing us. Okay? You can handle that because you've got big human brains. Now, so here we are inside the thylakoid space, and this protein right here has a name. It's called photosystem 2. And there's another one further down the chain called photosystem 1. And the photosystem proteins in the membrane are important because they have chlorophyll. Chlorophyll, more like borophyll. They have chlorophyll connected to them. And there's a little green chlorophyll, and there's another one. And
Can we just refer to them as borophils now?
light is going to hit the chlorophyll in photosystem 2. Now, by the way, the first one in the line is called photosystem 2, and the second one in the line is called photosystem 1. What's up with that? That's messed up. Well, photosystem 1 was discovered first. So they named it photosystem 1, and only later did they discover there was a photosystem 2, and then that was earlier in the chain, but it was too late to change the name at that point. Okay? So that's why that is. Anyway, light is going to hit the chlorophyll, and the chlorophyll has atoms in it, and some of those atoms contain electrons. And when the light hits the atoms and the electrons jump to a higher energy level. Now, did y'all ever talk about that in chemistry, that electrons can be going around the nucleus and they could jump to a higher energy level when they absorb energy? Well, that's exactly what happens here. Sunlight hits the chlorophyll, the electrons jump to a higher energy level, such a high energy level, in fact, that they leave the chlorophyll. And they start traveling down this chain of proteins. This is called the electron transport chain. And the electrons will be transported down the chain. They will move, actually physically move from left to right on this chain.
Is that what the shiny sparkly thing is?
That's the shiny sparkly things on the overhead are electrons moving down the chain. See them moving? Whee, they're moving. Oh, where did they go? One more time. They're moving. See the little blue things moving? Yay.
And the little thing that goes like bam, bam. Is that sunlight?
That's
bam,
sunlight.
bam.
The little yellow things hitting.
Bam, bam.
The blue thing up there are sunlight. Let me get my pointer here. That's chlorophyll right there, and there's the electrons moving. They're going rather fast. See the electrons moving? Okay. Now listen up. After, you got to pay attention here. After the electrons leave the chlorophyll and start moving down the chain, the chlorophyll now has 2 fewer electrons than it used to have. So it needs more electrons. Doesn't have enough. So it gets more electrons from a nearby water molecule. Any water molecule that creeps too close will lose its electrons to the electron hole that was created in the chlorophyll. And when it loses those 2 electrons, the whole water molecule falls apart. Because the electrons were the shared electrons between the hydrogen and the oxygen, and when those are gone, there's no more molecule.
Where does the whole system receive electrons to begin with? Because if it just keeps giving
it came out of the chlorophyll. The chlorophyll was made of atoms with electrons, and when the sunlight hit, those electrons jumped out, and then it needs more.
But where does that supply keep coming from?
From water, when you water your plants.
Alright.
Yeah.
Then who ultimately takes those electrons?
Well, we're going to get to that.
Alright.
We're going to get to that.
Yeah, man.
So let's do it again. The same thing happens again. Sunlight hits the chlorophyll. These electrons jump out of the chlorophyll, start moving down the chain. Another water molecule comes up, donates its electrons to the electrons hole that was created, and this water falls apart. So now we have a case here. Whoops. Notice there's a bunch of hydrogen ions free floating around in here. And do you know what a bunch of free hydrogen ions creates? Do you know what kind of environment it creates?
No,
High
I'm just kidding.
No? It is high entropy, you're right.
Yeah,
They're
Something
positive.
else.
They're positive.
So it has to do with acids and bases.
An acid.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of hydrogen ions floating around in an area, it makes the area acidic. And the first clue they got that this was happening was they did a chemical test on the inside of the thylakoid space, and it was highly acidic. This is how they figure some of this stuff out. Okay? Now, look what happens. We got a free oxygen here and a free oxygen here. Oxygen doesn't like to exist by itself. It doesn't like to exist alone. So they're going to blink, join together. We have a new molecule, O2. The plant has created oxygen. The oxygen floats out of the plant. You breathe it.
Why don't they just bond back?
Yeah, that's the stuff.
Again, coach, again.
Love that oxygen, baby. Woo! Kind of dizzy. Okay. So that's how plants make oxygen. Everybody got it?
Sure.
It used to be you'd say, hey, plants make oxygen. And somebody would say, well, how do they do that? And you'd say, golly, how about those Braves? You know, they're playing pretty bad. Nobody really knew. Now you know. That's how plants make oxygen. The water breaks up. The oxygens are left hanging out. They stick together to one another. Now you have your O2. And that O2 can just float right out of the membrane. The O2,
Through the stoma.
the O2 goes right through the membrane. Yes, all the way.
Oh.
And then when the stomata open, it'll come out of the plant.
I love them still there.
Okay? So, we're not done yet by any means. These electrons, they move down the chain. And when the electrons go through a first protein, that's actually a little bit bigger than the one I've drawn here, but when the electrons go past that protein, the electrons, which are high in energy, some of their energy is used for this protein to pump a hydrogen ion into the thylakoid space. So energy from the electrons is used to pull hydrogen inside this area. Active transport, do you remember that? Hydrogens are pumped in, and it takes energy. The energy is gained from those electrons. And you can see that going on here in the video. If we take a look, watch this protein here. It's going to pump hydrogen ions through whenever those electrons go by. Watch it right here. Electrons go by, hydrogen's pumped through. You see that? The little blue circle is a hydrogen ion. Electrons go by, hydrogen comes through. Are y'all seeing this? Electrons go by, hydrogens come through. Is it going too fast for you? Slow it down. Here we go. Light hits, electrons going through. Watch the hydrogen gets pumped in. Right as the electrons go by.
Just missed
So
it.
the electrons give energy for hydrogens to get pumped inside.
We're all pumped out.
They're not going to have to be pumped out. I'll show you that later. For right now, they're inside.
What are those blue and yellow things floating outside that are joining when the electron
We
comes
haven't
by?
got to those yet.
Okay.
Good question, but we're going to get to it.
Those steal,
Okay.
Those steal the electrons.
Yeah, let's speed it back up.
Bam.
Now notice what's happening here. We're getting more and more hydrogens on the inside. we're getting more and more acidic. Because as light continues to hit, the electrons will continue to move and will keep pumping in hydrogens. So this is building up a hydrogen ion concentration. And by the way, do you know what another name for a hydrogen ion is?
Hydroxide? Or,
No, that's a
Hydro.
no, it's
It's also called a proton. Because a hydrogen atom is just a proton and an electron.
True.
And if the electron is lost, it's a hydrogen ion, it's just a proton. So we say, since there's a lot of protons in the middle, that we're establishing what's called a proton gradient. Meaning there's a lot of protons out here, there's not many over here. It's a high concentration of protons on one side of the membrane and a low concentration of protons on the next. A proton gradient. Okay? So the electrons pass by, the hydrogen is pumped in. The electrons continue down the chain and go into this chlorophyll. And at that point, more sunlight shines on the chlorophyll, and they jump back out of that chlorophyll and continue down the chain. What is happening is, the electrons, as they pass here, some of their energy is used to pump the hydrogen in, and they become lower in energy. They've lost some energy at this point. But when the sunlight hits the chlorophyll here, they jump back up and gain that energy. And so they're back to being high energy electrons. And they're going to continue down the chain, these high energy electrons. How are we doing so far? Anybody totally confused? No? Y'all are doing good? Other class had a bunch of questions.
the smart class.
Y'all are the smart class?
Yeah.
And you thought we weren't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I bet some money on it actually, but y'all are doing pretty good so far. I'm just kidding, I'm gonna bet against y'all. Y'all are the best class, the other ones.
No, I'm gonna see that.
Okay!
Which one?
The electrons eventually reach the end of the chain,
D class.
and this last protein is called NADP reductase. That's of very little importance. But this protein, what it's going to do is it's going to give these electrons, something has to accept these electrons. These electrons just can't build up in some place. So they're picked up by a special protein that we call NADP. NADP is a charged protein that has a positive charge, and it's going to pick up the two electrons. And when it picks up the two electrons, it's also going to pick up a hydrogen ion. And now it has become something new called NADPH, because it picked up a hydrogen and two electrons. Now, the electrons were negatively charged. Just kind of a little note here. The NADP had a single positive charge. It picked up two negatively charged electrons. So what charge is it now if it picks up two negatively charged and it had one positive charge? It would be -1. That's why it picks up the positive hydrogen. That makes it all even. So we now have NADPH. And that's one of the products of the light reactions. This is all called the light reactions. Why do you think it's called the light reactions?
They use light energy.
Because it happens only when light is shining on the plane. Okay, want to see it again? Electrons go down the chain. What happens right here? Hydrogen pumped in. Electrons continue down the chain. Light hits it, boosting their energy again. They continue down the chain. What happens at the end?
They get picked up by the...
They get picked up by NADP, which is an electron carrier, and it now forms NADPH. That's one of the products of the light reactions. Let's see it on computer animation.
Do it.
Now I want you to watch here. That's the NADP reductase. And And right at the end, the electrons are going to be picked up by the yellow boop, and a hydrogen. Watch it, watch it. Here comes a yellow. Picks it up and a hydrogen. You see?
Touch.
Here they come, here they come. Picks it up and a hydrogen. This is exciting. Here we go. Picks it up and a hydrogen. You see?
Wow.
You want slow animation? For those of you that think a little bit slower. Here we go. Sunlight coming in here. Watch. Sunlight hits. That water breaks up. Coming down. Pumped through. More sun. Higher energy electrons. Here we go. Gonna get picked up. Boop. There's NADPH. Okay? How are we doing so far?
Doing good.
Are you happy?
Yes.
Do you know it?
Oh, I know it.
Clap your hands. Happy and you know it. Clap your hands. See? Alright, so look what's happened here. Water was breaking up, releasing hydrogen into this space. Hydrogen ions were being pumped in, putting more hydrogen in this space. And hydrogen ions were being picked up over here, putting less hydrogen in this space. The net result is a whole bunch of hydrogen in the thylakoid space, very little hydrogen in the stroma. We've created what's called a concentration gradient. A lot of H pluses out here, hardly any H pluses out here. What's H plus going to want to do? You know from lab 1.
Go into the stroma.
It's going to want to go into the stroma. That's right, Higgs. Did you know that new particle accelerator is trying to find the Higgs boson?
That'll be sick.
Have you ever heard of the Higgs boson?
No.
What's the
That would
Higgs
be a good
boson,
nickname
coach?
for you, boson.
What's the Higgs boson, coach? What
It's
is
an
it?
elusive quantum particle that
That makes
could
someone
prove
good.
that there are extra dimensions.
Whoa.
That sounds pretty gangster if you call me boson.
Boson, that's pretty cool.
You can call me bosante.
Bosante.
Really do.
And then to explain, you have to be able to explain why you have that name.
Yeah.
So you have to read up a little bit on the Higgs boson.
And that sounds really smart.
It's also been called the God particle,
Oh gosh.
the Higgs
Whoa.
boson.
Whoa.
Sorry, I got off track there. Okay. So the hydrogen ions are going to want to go out. Well, gosh, I'm a hydrogen ion. How do I get out of here? Nope, I can't go there. There's membrane in the way. There's no way out of here. What am I going to do? I'm stuck. Oh!
Oh, whoa.
It can go through this. This is called ATP synthase. It's a special protein that hydrogen ions can go through. And the reason why it's called ATP synthase is when a hydrogen ion does go through, like this one, bloop.
Connects with.
When the hydrogen ion goes through, that causes ADP and P to be put together to make ATP. The hydrogen ion moving through this is kind of like water turning a water wheel. As the ions go through, it turns a reaction in the ATP synthase that will put ADP and P together to make ATP. So if I do this right, as this goes through, that comes together.
Do you mean ATP? Or
I don't mean a TP like an Indian teepee. I mean the molecule adenosine triphosphate. Don't get those mixed up. Kids often do. Okay? So this goes out. It causes ATP to be put together, and exactly how that happens isn't fully yet understood by scientists, but they know it does happen. And now we've formed ATP. And what's going to happen to these hydrogen ions that are just floating around here? Can you guess?
What?
Form with the NADP.
Water.
Eventually.
Some of them will eventually either grab onto an NADP or what could happen if they cruised up this way?
They get pumped in.
They could get pumped in again. So they could just go around in a circle. Now keep in mind, they don't have to go down and then back up and around. This thylakoid membrane is stacked on top of another one right below it. So it could just be pumped down into the one right below it. Do you see what I'm saying?
I know.
Nah, I mean? Okay, so let's see that part happening here. Let's go fast animation. Okay, so the electrons are going down, hydrogen pumped in. Watch down here. You'll see as a hydrogen goes out, an ATP will get made. Watch the hydrogen go out and an ATP get made. Do you see that? The purple ADP. Watch it. There it is. Look. Did you see it lit up and became yellow? You all watching? Watch it right here. A hydrogen ion, probably this one right here, is going to go through.
He's thinking too. He thinks about it for a little
Watch
bit.
it. Here comes the ADP, and as it goes through, ATP is made.
Whoa.
You see? So what we've done here is we've created ATP and NADPH in the light reactions of photosynthesis. And we have created oxygen as a waste product, and we have used up water. We don't need, the water is gone. And solar energy was used. That's the light that shines on that. So you understand half of the equation now. The other half of the equation, the carbon dioxide made into sugar, happens tomorrow. And it uses that and that. Those two are required to do it. Okay? That's it.
So can I turn this off?
Now, hold on, a couple of other things. I want you to keep in mind that this thylakoid membrane actually is 3D. It comes out at you. Okay? And it doesn't just have one set of proteins. These proteins are in the membrane many times, coming all the way around like this and going back. And they're also, the membrane has another side, so they're on the other side as well. And they're spread all throughout this membrane. One chloroplast has hundreds of thylakoid membranes. One mesophyll cell has hundreds of chloroplasts. Okay? One leaf has trillions of cells. One tree has hundreds of thousands of leaves, maybe millions if it's a big enough tree. One forest has millions of trees. So there's all this activity going on. Look outside. Look at the trees. All that activity is going on inside there. And you're just sitting here. And you don't even know that until now. The world should have just become like way more confusing and crazy and cool than it ever was before, now that you know this. You should never look at another tree the same again. Also keep in mind, when I have this thing running in fast motion, let's put it on fast motion. There we go. See the molecules moving? In reality, they're moving about 100,000 times that fast. Okay? So when this is producing 1 ATP every 6 or 7 seconds, it's actually producing about 50,000 of them a second for one set of proteins. Each thylakoid has hundreds of sets.
Hundreds of that.
Yes. So, yeah, oxygen is being pumped out of this.
I don't see how food results from any of this.
You'll see.
Excuse me, I was breathing. The food comes tomorrow.
Oh. This is just oxygen.
We haven't done the second half. Now, check this out. How much oxygen do we need? I want you to think about this. This plant is doing this. There must be a huge amount of oxygen coming out of the plant. Well, we use so much oxygen that one person requires hundreds of pounds of plant to breathe. Okay? One student one time asked, instead of carrying oxygen on board the space shuttle when the guy's flying outer space, why not just carry a bunch of plants? They make oxygen, and you could go as far as you want. The reason is because one person requires several thousand plants, and it would weigh too much to carry that much plants.
How much CO2 do we produce?
About the same as the amount of oxygen we use, because 6 CO2s are used per 6 oxygens that are made, and that occurs in reverse in our bodies. Our respiration is this reaction backwards. We take food and we breathe in oxygen and we spit out CO2s. So it's exactly the same numbers that we're talking about. So our respiration requires a lot of plants. And you can imagine with 6 billion, 8 billion people on the planet, however many there are now, we need a lot of plants just to provide our oxygen. Not to mention all the cows and birds and fish and everything else there is.
I heard that
there's got to be a lot of plants.
I heard that all the plants in the water are plenty sufficient for.
Yeah, all the plants, all the algae in the water that's producing oxygen produce about 70% of the oxygen. The land plants only produce about 30%.
So therefore, we don't need to get on our knees and thank the farmer who grow it.
Well,
There we go.
If none of the land plants were here, we'd only have about 70% of the oxygen in the atmosphere.
And if they weren't growing the trees would grow there naturally, just not in rows.
That's right, they wouldn't grow in
It'd be
rows.
the exact same thing.
So they need to say, get on your knees and thank us for the rows of trees. So yeah, so it's there's a lot of stuff going on out there when you don't realize it.
Are we done with this thing now?
Now we're done. Willis out.
Close up, coach.
Willis out.
Okay, so how turn this out?
How do you turn it off? You push the button.
Wow.
The button?
The button that started it.